watching this. This is Black Beat Podcast. My name is Jurell Scott, and I'm sitting here with Mr. John Washington. How are you doing today?
Oh man, I'm blessed, my brother. I'm glad to be here with you, Jurell. Podcast and communication is a real necessary kind of reality these days. So yeah, man, it's good. Just sitting here chopping it up with you.
Indeed, it is. And we're here to give you all a recap of the MLK Dream Run. Give a little deep dive into what we've done, how we done it, why we did it, and who knows better than this man right here. So,
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah. So,
yeah, the MLK Dream Run and all of its insinuations and all of its purpose. Good afternoon. My name is John Washington, and I'm the host of the podcast Black Beat. Jurell is more or less my fill-in voice, and Jurell, he's been really doing that job and taking it on seriously, and I'm really appreciative of my brother stepping in when I'm absent, and that's a real blessing. But today is to share with you a little bit more about the significance of it and the purpose of what we do and why we do it around here. And if we're talking about this event, the MLK Dream Run, when I think about the history of it, I start laughing because, as Flossin Media is an event organization, event company, and we've done a lot of events over the years. Everything from the BET awards down in California to giving talent search or talent shows or creating and putting them together. But for so long doing these events in Oregon and in Washington and some parts of Northern California, it got kind of interesting because at that time we had a stable of hip-hop artists, and we were doing a lot of that R&B and hip-hop and all that. But it seemed so interesting in the sense of who the audience was that we were doing these things with. And it was almost like as if it was like a conflict of some kind. It just didn't feel right. We would put on all these hip-hop events, but most of the places we was putting them on and mostly was cowboys. People that lived in the country, it was just like, damn, we bringing hip-hop artists to the cowboys. And some of them would roll away bumping, but for the most part, it just didn't seem like it was matching up, the types of events we were doing. But along came a situation that we also became a part of, and that was the Role Model Summit that former and present-day ball players got together, and we would go around the country and we would talk about things with high school level and college level young people, motivational stuff primarily, and then resource gathering. And so through this process, some things got revealed to us. And we met some people, and one of the guys that we met was a gentleman by the name of Geoff Hollister. And I don't know if most people know about Geoff Hollister. Geoff Hollister was the number 3 man at Nike. Well, we call him the number 3 man, but I don't know. I don't think Nelson Ferris, and he had a number. I guess he was number 2, and of course Phil Knight was number 1. But when we met Geoff Hollister, Geoff wrote a book at that time, and he wrote how Nike changed perfected the art of running. And it was kind of fascinating listening to Geoff speak, and we all spoke and all that. And at some point in time, I got really familiar with Bowerman down at the University of Oregon and Prefontaine and all these people and these runners. But anyway, Geoff got to telling me a little bit about the history, and then looking at the history of Nike, how Nike was in our district, was the first retail store that Nike put together was here in our district on the MLK quarter. And that was kind of a fascinating awareness for me. And then, of course, the MLK situation. Everybody was always doing something for Martin Luther King, and at the time we were talking about wealth and health and wellness, and we were talking about everybody getting on the move. And Geoff, who wrote this book, and the store, and the MLK quarter, and blah, 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 and at some point in time it just clicked. Well, there were more runs in the state of Oregon, and that 80% of the running activity or the outdoor activity apparel is here in the Northwest, in this state. And so it just all seemed to make sense to come together with Nike and Geoff and all of them and produce something that the state is familiar with. And that my friends, was the MLK Dream Run, and dedicating the 15K to Geoff Hollister in the run. Well, and then Nike, of course, in their participation. And we've been really appreciative of Nike and their contribution to this run over the years and its support. But I think the history of the run was really came together when three young black men had to come together to put together a 15K, a 10K, and a 5K run that was a neighborhood run. And that was definitely all in itself an eye-opening, awakening experience, trying to forge against those powers that push back, wondering rather not if you know. And of course, most people know the Hood to Coast and the Shamrock Run and all these other big runs that they got in this state, where these people come in this state and walk away in a weekend with $2 million, just from an event. And we in the communities that we're in see none of this revenue. This revenue comes in, and these people take this revenue out of the state and they leave. And so it just got to be just a little bit challenging for us to put this event on. But here we are in year 11, after all those experiences, and still moving, still strong, runners are still coming along. And the whole purpose of the run, really, was to bring together the community and introduce the community to itself. And then, of course, looking at the gems that we have in our community, the neighborhood. This is the only one of the few runs that still ran in the neighborhood, in a community. Most runs are run on backways, byway, pathways, all these back courses and things that don't really show you the inner markings, the inner city, okay? But this run really is designed for people to run the neighborhood, run the inner areas of it, and it's a sidewalk run. It makes it a little challenging, but we're moving to on a closed course race here in the next couple of years, so we want to encourage people to come out and be a part of that one, because you real runners who like to run without any issues, run like to win, y'all can close the roads for you, let you run all day long. Yeah, man, so that's how the run came into its existence. We had our challenges with cities and local municipalities and this and that, trying to get permits for parks, trying to get permits to close. I remember one year these fools tried to charge us $40,000, man, to close a couple streets to be able to run a race, but right now today we are really excited about the relationships that this run has forged over the years, and we like to appreciate Geoff Hollister with that idea and that notion to set us in the right direction.
I do remember after the race had ended, just like driving the course and just seeing how much of the city the race goes through. I mean, you're starting down at PCC, you're going down Albina, you're going to Peninsula Park, and you're going up to Irving Park, and everything all around Mississippi, and just seeing the city. And I mean, just during that drive, I was just thinking about when I was a kid, how it used to look. And then how this city has grown and changed and what it is now. So I think there's a lot of power in that for, native Portlanders that are here, and then if they decide to run or spectate or just look at the course route and just seeing wow, this is just it's kind of like you're running through a journey when you're running through the city.
And then to boot, we're getting talented runners and athletes and people who are engaging in health and entrepreneurship and all that. So it really acts as a stimulus to a large degree. But what I was excited about, one year we had a runner from the U of O that came in and went to the Olympics and took number 3 in the 1500 meter race. Got the bronze. And he won the race the year before, It's kind of like, oh boy, it was what it was, did run like the wind, let me tell you, Because some on the 15K, you be wondering, so damn, you should have been, they shoot the gun, you gone, and you be wondering why they show up faster than the 5Ks do, It's like, damn, boy, would you just took a shortcut or something? But really, not really, yeah. My truck be trying to keep up with them, so yeah. But it's an exciting... But I remember going to the Blazers one year when we first started. I think it was in year 3. And I think it was Larry Miller was still at the head of the helm down there. So I'd go in and see Larry, and I would speak to him and ask him, hey Larry, the Blazers are right here in our neighborhood, and maybe we should get together, and we'd like to get you guys involved in this. When I went to Larry, I said, hey Larry, man, why don't we do this MLK Dream Run? I want you guys to support it. Well, and because we were looking at the run being a weekend run, a weekend event, like a destination event for people to come and participate with on as a weekend. So Larry said, well, when you guys get it together as a weekend event, then maybe we'll look at supporting it. But the whole idea was to put together, since everything was already set up, right, the evening before the run, then why would that go to waste? Why should we let that real estate go to waste? So that's why we had the community engagement piece, where we had the local artists and participation of people who are in the arts and in the field of music to come in. We set up the stage, we set up the vendor environment, and that environment really is part of the ambiance, or the community engagement experience that the race is to bring together. And so, and that really, to me, is really the give back. That's the part where we want the community to come in, the businesses to come in, to meet each other. We get a little bit of a taste of maybe some kind of libations of whatever it is, feed the community, give them music, support one another, set up commerce opportunities for people to interact with, give away opportunities, things like that. So, yeah, man, that's where the heart part of this is. The race is just the technical part. We go out and we set up the course, we get people to come in and pay for the race and all that kind of stuff, and then they come in and race and take home a bag of goodies and a medal, and everything's all good. It's a fair transaction. But the part that I'm really excited about is this part where the community comes together, where we dance and where we celebrate and we share love and joy amongst ourselves in support of what we're trying to accomplish in our community. So that's really what the media, that's all about.
I kind of want to go back a little bit and touch on, you're talking about like these vendors and these small businesses coming out and, supporting and being a part of the community. Can you tell us a little bit more about like how do these small businesses hear about like this event and come out and, get a spot?
I think those people in these small businesses are really significant to the very fabric of our community. And, everybody can't be a Fortune 500. I think 80% of the fabric of our community is rooted in small business reality, mom and pop. And times are changing a little bit with that. I mean, the Googles of the world, or the Apples, or the this and that, who are creating all these delivery formats and, all that is one thing. But I still believe, well, let me back up a second. COVID really changed in a big way the way we do things in our country. Rather not if we want to look at that, rather if it was temporary, whatever it was, but it did change the way we do things. And so as a result of that, a lot of these small businesses suffered as a result of that. People don't like going in to places and this and that, so people want things to be delivered to their door and all that. But I think what happens is that we tend to get into spaces to where we don't recognize the dilemma that we're in, and how important it is for us as a community to continue to engage each other. How prosperity only flows if there's a transactional reality going on. And we need to continue to foster those transactional realities. But when I talk about the lesser amongst us, I talk about those opportunities that bigger companies may have, that smaller companies don't. So what we try to do is solicit these bigger companies to somehow or another buy into a space or buy into a concept that is rooted in their philanthropic contribution helps bring those smaller companies and smaller organizations up. And that we get an opportunity to engage the community by introducing. And the other part of that too, man, has always been a little difficult one for me is that when we get BIPOC or culturally specific types of communities that are in businesses, it's so easy when you look at gentrification that comes into our district and comes in our community, all these white businesses set up and then white people follow. And then they tend to visit these businesses and they frequent these businesses. The problem that we're having in our district is that no matter how many BIPOC and small businesses, black businesses we may open up, the idea is still to get the community to come in and frequent and shop and be a part of that exchange, right? But it's so typical for, black businesses or businesses of color to suffer from the main population or the dominant population in our district, and we still don't understand what that's all about. We don't understand why the same white people who go into these new white businesses don't go into these smaller black community or BIPOC organizations or businesses and use them equally as frequently. So we're hoping that as long as we can begin to introduce each other to each other, and that we begin to form relationships and interactions and have opportunities to do work with each other, we begin to know and support one another, and we keep that dollar in our community. So really that's really where the rubber is meeting the road. We tired of being robbed or not being supported, but yet we've been here longer than just about anybody else. So that's some of the stuff.
Yeah. I want to kind of flip it a little bit to something different. The theme of the run, Earth Needs Allies.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I'm sure, there's a lot of issues and things that go on in the community and in our nation, in the world. Out of all of them, we chose Earth Needs Allies. What was the thing that led us to choosing that, and why do you feel like that one is the more valuable one?
That's a good one, man. It wasn't until I actually listened to Martin Luther King's speech on the I Have a Dream. And for so many years I was listening to that speech, but I didn't quite understand the significance around the economic development strategies that were associated behind that, and the messages. And the messages were associated with a whole lot of the understanding of the injustice, the socialized injustices, the things that we do on a daily basis that we're forced to do, like live into the earth and eat chitlins because that was the only part of the pig that they would give us, and wings and all of these kinds of things. And when you look at all of the reforms and the question, all of those things came after the justices of all kinds, the economic justices, the social and environmental justice movements, and all these types of things that came after Martin Luther King's speech. And that to me really was where the rubber met the road at, is because it's not like as if in Africa and places where dark-skinned people come from, we don't have a relationship with the earth and the sky. Is that for years we've been the caretakers of that reality. Then all of a sudden, here comes these other movements. So it just seemed to make sense when we started looking at COVID, we started looking at the advent of the electric car, how we're looking at alternative energies after Obama. It's in his conversations that came up. It just seemed at that point in time to recognize that the earth was headed in a bad direction. It's been headed in not so much of a good direction. We're looking at melt, on the snow caps and on the glaciers. We're looking at heats that are beyond our normal realities. We're looking at storms that almost wipe out islands. Things that we have never seen. Historically, we haven't seen before. So it's not like as if we shouldn't, just because we live in one little bubble in the city and we're not necessarily getting hit with the storms and all this, is that for 1 minute in time, we need to stop and look and ask ourselves, is the world moving in an okay direction? I think not. So the question remains is, as we as people of philanthropic nature, the question then remains is, what's the contribution? What is the real contribution? Am I just walking around because I'm spending a couple of dollars making a real contribution? No. And if I am, where's those dollars going? And what's the significance of why I'm spending those dollars and who I'm spending them with? Okay? So when we think about the earth, without this place, we really have nothing. So I'm not so much locked into how much I want to help people all the time, or a specific group of people, or this or that. I think the basic foundational reality is that Maslow thing begins to make a lot more sense. The question is, can I build a house in a burning environment? You know what I'm saying? Could I build a house underwater without gills? All that. Because there are some reality factors that are emerging that are really in direct competition with our survival. So I think that as responsible people, and as we look at things like legacies and philanthropy and all those types of things, I think it's really important that we recognize that we must first secure the very foundation of our existence. And if we can't place our feet nowhere on the earth, on the ground to stand to begin to build, then we're really lost. We don't really have anything. We only have conversation, an illusion. But the end result is that if we don't start doing something about saving the planet, and just on a sidebar on that, just really what I heard when I start pushing further into this stuff and I start looking at it more, I'm listening to what's really being said, and what's really being said is that all of these changes that we're trying to implement makes no damn bit of difference if we don't get enough dirt to plant more trees. Because the bottom line is the amount of oxygen that needs to be given off by trees and plant from the geographical standpoint of view, they got it figured out to where you need to get enough space with enough trees putting out enough oxygen to cover enough ground to cover enough people. And I think these intelligent folks figured this shit out already. They got it figured out, well, hey, look, we can talk about all these offsets and mitigations, but if we don't get enough dirt to plant more trees to create more oxygen, then we're really playing catch up anyway, so.
And this just makes me think back to previous interviews I had with people. I was just asking them, like, what are the things you're doing to be Earth's ally? What are ways you can be Earth's ally? And a lot of it is just do your part, Just the little things that really count, that can really make a difference, like in the long road. People are telling me, like, carpooling, there's green Ubers now that you can take into consideration. There's, a lot of things that you can do, a lot of little adjustments you can make that'll, really make a difference when it comes to this fight for the earth.
Yeah, man, I'm not envious of what y'all young people are having to inherit. Jay, I really ain't, man. I mean, because it's so paradoxical, man. I really get it. Small third world countries who have to survive on what types of technologies and things that are allotted to them and so forth and so on, that's one thing. But when you're here in this country and you're competing with the very nature of the construct, the construct itself is rooted in capitalism. And the very nature of capitalism cannot find the resolve in which we're looking for. The very essence of that construct will not allow us to arrive to compatibility, or let's say this, or okayness. I'm okay, you're okay. As much as we want to articulate that strategy or that reality, the very nature of capitalism is about competition. Kind of doesn't make any sense to me, because we have the capacity to change what the need is, right? To transform the need. Okay, we need to be a little bit more conservative in how we expend ourselves and using energy and all of these things. But yet, how does capitalism allow you to do that? The very nature of capitalism tells you to buy more, spend more, eat more, gather more, and be more and better than everyone else. So how do you do that harmoniously? So there is some struggles. I would agree that where you want to go is one thing, but getting there based on to me, it just doesn't seem like we're rooted in some type of, how would you say, like I always say, circling the drain. Because we already know it's inevitable that if we don't stop using oil, we're gonna have some problems in our air, in our environment. But yet, you see the prices of gas, you see how many cars they made. They even coming out with bigger trucks because the public wants bigger trucks. So whatever, as you said, whatever little bit, but I still believe that the basic inherent construct in which we live in is what's really creating the difficulty for us to arrive at some points of solutions for our problems. So it's a contradictory reality. So, and I don't know how we're going to balance that out. I think those people who have money and a lot of money need to be converted somehow into the thinking the way we're trying to get them to think. So, but yeah, I think that's the difficulty of what you young people are inheriting today. I don't necessarily believe that it's headed in the right direction. And with this theme, I think this theme, Earth Needs Allies, still has room to be unpacked a little bit more and stay within this pathway. Because I don't think we've impacted it enough to get the train to sort of change up and go in a different direction at this point. So I'm thinking that there's still a little bit more we can do within this atmosphere and this environment. And so we're going to start pressing into leaning and looking at that. And I'd like to continue this same perspective around Earth needing allies and see where we can go one layer, peel the onion one layer deeper, and see if we can get some different types of impacts in some levels. Because I think it's important to, if you got to invite the BIPOC community into this. I'm just so sick and tired of seeing the same perception that white America is the candlestick holder of Earth and its allies. I think that in terms of looking at conservation, looking at opportunities to build on our survival and those types of things, I think that the BIPOC community, the Black community, has a lot to offer in that arena, and I think we'd be naive to not invite all groups into that space. So I'm really looking forward to that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, some of our old people, some people we've interviewed in the past, they've talked about how they have classes and courses people can take, and they're trying to educate people on good clean energy, sustainability, good practices and stuff like that. And I think those classes and that education, just having that knowledge, is extremely valuable. I am a little optimistic when it comes to like the future, especially when it comes to like my generation, just because I know that there's more and more talks about clean energy and sustainability and putting our best foot forward to save the earth. There's things like trying to have more electric cars and just making that the focal point. There's things like protests and stuff like that, and people are calling out big corporations or these celebrities, these big name people for things they've done in their malpractices when it comes to environmental justice. So I just want to put that out there. Like, there's a lot of bad, but there is still some good as well. So I think people are trying to put their best foot forward and step in the right direction.
Yeah, man, and I'm happy that you bring optimism to the table as the next iteration of Youthful Minds. I'm not necessarily feeling like I'm jaded on some of this stuff, but I do know that there's been enough hoodwink to go around. People saying a lot of things but doing a lot of something else. But as a collective body, I do believe that there is a need to share in the prosperity that comes from these things, that there is a lot more ideas and opportunities that people of color can bring to this environment and this type of thing. So I'm really looking forward to building on the equity, okay, and that we are able to somewhere along the line be able to benefit from the economic challenges or growth that comes from these new sectors and these new fields, and that we're not always sitting at the train station waiting to get on the train when we got some contribution that we could be making to that environment too. So those are the types of optimisms that I have, is that somewhere along the line that the opportunity for prosperity and growth in these sectors and these areas get open to people of color, and that people are not having to get on the train after it's taken off. So, but with that, we're optimistic about bringing voices to the table about creating this event, creating any other type of community opportunity or engagement opportunity that will allow us to engage the community, that will allow it to grow and maintain some type of healthy attitude and disposition toward not only the people that live in the community, but for the people taking care of and respecting one another in it also. So for me, that's what the purpose of this run or any of our events that Flossin puts on over the years has always been rooted in each one teach one, each one try to elevate each other to a greater level. How do we expand upon our disposition to create better opportunities for our families, for individuals, and for our businesses and our community? One last thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is our media programs. It's really important that you understand that our media programs are rooted in a disposition that I like to call and characterize as a form of liberation. Now, when I say that word liberation, I'm not trying to say that, that they're revolutionaries or that stuff, but that's welcome too, you know. But the whole point of liberation is when you have opportunity, when you have a voice, you have a platform, you can deliver a message, you can liberate your community, your family, and yourself. There's no reason any longer for us to be, or our communities to be encumbered, held hostage, or any of that with the advent of technology. So what we like to believe is that when small businesses, community members, individuals, young and old, can come in and learn these technologies and learn these strategies. That's what this is really all about for us. So we don't mind you coming in from time to time. You're going to listen to exciting interviews. You're going to listen to some of our up-and-coming podcast jocks interview other people, other businesses, and you're going to be observing growth in an industry, in a field that we believe is the next iteration of our lives and in our communications and these types of things. So it's important that small businesses that are out there that are feeling encumbered, all bound up, can't seem to find no sources. Look, come on in here with us, y'all. Look, we got a few things going on over here for small businesses. We'd like to get you small businesses moving a little bit. So come on in, free your spirit, free your mind, okay? Be able to liberate yourself in what it is that you're trying to do. Because if you ain't got a platform, if you don't have a way to voice your concerns, and if you don't have the technology and the strategy you need to be able to do that, then you're still standing there with naught. So we're encouraging any of y'all small businesses that are out there, people who are interested in the game, interested in the way that we do things, or the way things are done, you can come around here and say hi. We're at the MLK Dream Run online stuff. We're here in Portland on MLK Street. Where you can find us in all of the email sectors that you want, is Soul District Business Associations. We got Flossin Media. We have a few things that you can go online and check us out with and come on in and participate with us and help us make the next dream run a dream.